Estamos aquí con Laura Bassett. Ella es directora de Tecnologías Emergentes e Innovación de Centros de Contacto en el área de marketing de Avaya, dentro del contexto de Avaya Evolutions que se está llevando a cabo aquí en el Centro Banamex. Hello, Laura. How are you?
Hello. Good. Good morning.
Fine. Can you tell us what are the trends of contact centers and customer experience?
Sure. In fact, you have hit on one of the major trends in your question. Things are evolving from a contact center focus to a customer experience management focus. So the thinking around customer experience management is really no longer a trend. It's more than managing technology in our contact centers today. It's about the consideration of the customer experience across every touch point that your organization, that a business would deliver for a customer, whether that be at a bank branch, at a retail store, on a mobile device, via social media, or over the phone, email, SMS. So it's about delivering a holistic customer experience that's personalized as a business differentiator for businesses today. And why is that? It's so easy for customers to move from one business to another. The internet has made this world much smaller. Mm-hmm. And so businesses really have to pay attention to customer experience as a differentiator. This is really influenced by the consumer and their behaviors and how they want to interact with organizations. It's definitely no longer about the technology that the company thinks is cool to implement. If the customer is not expecting that to be there, then it should not be a priority for the business in managing that customer experience. The other piece that goes along with delivering the holistic, optimized experience is really understanding who your customer is, both in how they do business with you. So our typical things like purchase history, common questions that they might come in and ask, to who are they outside of your company? Are they tweeting, right? Are they browsing on the internet before they ever call you to ask a question? How knowledgeable are they? Do they have 400,000 followers on Twitter? So how influential are they? Or how many friends on Facebook? What can you learn about that customer from those behaviors? Or are they a customer that wants to use a mobile application? And from that mobile application, you can also understand where they are right now at this point in time and leverage that information in how you might deliver that experience. For example, I have a question about a product. I can see from the customer has a question about a product. They're looking on the mobile device, asking me a question. I can see from their GPS that they're right next to one of my store locations. I could direct them there, have an associate at the store that already understands the problem and ready to serve them. That's a difference in the way we behave today versus the way we need to behave tomorrow. And it's about creating what I call the wow factor in customer experience. How can I impress you beyond what your expectations might be? And when you walk into that branch or that store and that associate is waiting for you to come in and already knows why you're there, that's different in what you might expect in going in there on just a regular day. And we have the technology and the capabilities to deliver that today. It's about creating the strategy to get that done from a business perspective.
Yes. What are the difference between customer experience and customer engagement?
That's an interesting question. I believe, the way we approach it at Avaya is the experience is, again, that end-to-end holistic experience that I'm going to deliver across my customer population. And engagement is truly being engaged with those customers on an individual level and navigating that individual engagement so that I'm creating that relationship with that customer. They are now engaged with my business. They feel a personal level of relationship with me as a company. So any company should strive to create the engagement with their customers by delivering the holistic experience. So that's really how we approach it. And ultimately, the way it's a simple three-step process to how we can manage and deliver that customer experience. We need to first you need to understand it to define the strategy, but then it's about enabling it, connecting with those customers, and then truly engaging those customers. So you have to build towards being able to deliver that engaged experience.
Mm-hmm. And how is it possible to have a engagement in companies like water companies or
yes,
power companies?
Sure, because we think as a utility company, water, power, you don't necessarily think of that as a relationship, but at the same time, you're providing critical services to that particular consumer. So, and in many cases, and you would actually have to tell me in Mexico, but there's more competition. I could go to, if it's cable, right? I could go to different providers if it's internet services, which really are structured in many cases the same as your utility providers, but you want those customers to be happy with your service. It's actually a lower cost to be able to do so. So I can create that engaged experience by doing things like creating proactive communications. This is we're seeing a shift in the interaction that goes on between companies and customers, really shifting towards the proactive engagement model, meaning I as a company am reaching out to you as a customer based on knowing who you are and understanding your needs and expectations. I can send you an SMS to check in on you after you've bought my product 30 days ago. I can send you a reminder that you have an appointment over your preferred channel. I could call you, I could email you, right? So I am able to, customers are creating those proactive engagement strategies, and that creates a differentiated experience. So if you took it to utilities, we are going to be doing some work in your area, please move your car, otherwise, because our trucks will need to park there. I'm making up the example. But it's about really thinking about the impact to the end customer. They're still going to pay those bills, but why can't you accommodate them? And then you just have, in general, you're happier customer and really society, right? In electric, there's a power outage. Well, they're probably not using their home phone. So can you send them an SMS and let them know when their power is back on at home so they can go back and do what they need to do to, make sure that their food is not spoiled, right? So it's still, we find that utility companies are still focusing around that experience, because otherwise customers they do have a voice in how they're going to leverage those services and who they're going to leverage them with. So there's still the same focus on that engagement model. And the other piece that it does by doing this, by delivering that proactive engagement as an example, a utility company can reduce their cost of service, right? Because it is a bit different of a model. It's not that I'm necessarily driving everything I'm doing to increase overall revenue. They have their utility bill. But at the same time, I can implement technology in a manner that I can reduce my overall costs. If I send you an SMS that says that your power is back on, you're not going to call me. If I just let you know that I will send you an SMS when the power is back on, you're not going to call me 3 times to find out if the power is back on. So I've reduced the number of incoming calls by answering your question for you in advance. So I can manage my own expenses as a business, at the same time improving your experience in doing business with me. So it's about the models in which we deploy the technology as well that helps businesses in industries such as utilities.
Right. What about social media? Because here in Latin America
it's not quite as heavy. Mm-hmm. What we're finding with our customers is they're trying to figure out the right way and how it's going to be used here. They do see it being used, but not as broadly as it is around the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. My experience around the rest of the world has been that it's leveraged companies are realizing that it is not just a tool to respond to a customer that is maybe saying something negative about your business via social media. It's a tool that can be used to communicate with your broader consumer community and for things like revenue opportunities, or letting people know that there are still tickets available for the horse race that is tonight, or the sporting venue or the music venue that is upcoming. So it's a way to communicate with them and proactively engage with your consumers. We find that retail customers are using it to communicate about sales or new fashion trends, right? So it's a way to keep their customers educated and informed. It's not as broadly adopted in this region, as best I can tell. And sorry, but the folks that I've spoken to in region in my short time here this week, they're trying to be ahead of the curve and learn from other regions in how the consumers can use it and how not to get trapped into just being a response tool, but leveraging it in many other ways. The folks that I've spoken with also understand the value of automating the intelligence, the filtering of those social media mentions, for example, to gain additional insight and intelligence in their business. So as we move towards big data and analytics, how can I leverage all the information that is provided to me through monitoring of the social media space about who my customers are, what they want, what they need, what a new product idea might be, right? So businesses are looking much more broadly than just a customer response tool. It's an information repository, a wealth of information that they can gain about the population in general. I don't have a gauge yet on what the uptake, the pace of adoption might be in the area. I mean, it's dependent on access to internet, for example, right? So there's core that needs to be in place.
What are the best practices that you are going to tell us in a few minutes?
So good question. What I'm gonna focus on, the best practices are around a couple of key things: understanding the relationship, taking a step back, and it's relationship awareness, and then experience management, leveraging all the information resources that you have to deliver the optimal experience. And then what I'm going to focus on is what we're seeing customers do. So this is not from a Avaya technology that we want you to implement perspective. What we're seeing customers do as best practices to start to deliver on their customer experience management strategy. So what I'll focus on are some customers who have started with the basics. In many cases, it's around self-service. It's around workforce optimization and multi-channel strategies with your customers. And so those best practices are around creating the strategy, being aware of the relationship, and then doing the basics to begin to evolve that relationship today. There's no single path that every business is going to take. There's going to be dynamic changes in the business that will influence what they do first. The other key piece that I'll be talking about is changing the way we think about contact center technology investments to understand the value that they provide to our companies from a revenue generation perspective. Rather than thinking of it as an ROI, return on investment, for when my technology is paid off, think about it from how I am impacting customer and agent retention, so loyalty, as well as revenue that I'm driving in the business. And it changes the way we think about the technology investments in the contact center as being much more strategic to the organization. How do they influence net promoter scores? How do they influence customer satisfaction levels? And so it's a different way of really classifying what that contact center is to my business. And it really takes it full circle back to it's customer experience management now. not contact center technologies.
Right.
So,
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
thank you. It was a pleasure.